Hey everybody, welcome to our Facebook Live today. Today I'm joined by a volunteer here at Hospice in the Chesapeake. This is Sherry Tucker. Sherry, thanks for being with me today.
Thank you, I'm excited to be here.
So I'm Tammy Turner. I'm the Community Education Manager here for Hospice in the Chesapeake, and it is National Volunteer Appreciation Week. And I've asked Sherry to come in and chat with me a little bit about her experience as a volunteer and share with us sort of the whole process, and we're going to talk about that for a few minutes. So we're going to start with what made you decide to want to become a volunteer for Hospice of the Chesapeake. How did that happen?
I guess it was a little bit unexpected. It's not something that I ever thought about, but I just felt like I wanted to do something to give back.
Okay.
Started researching volunteer opportunities, and Hospice of the Chesapeake had a seriously long list of volunteer needs. And
Okay.
I thought, well, I never really thought about working with hospice, but after I gave it some serious thought, I had helped friends or family members in various stages of recovery or illness, and nurturing comes pretty naturally to me. So I thought this might be a really good fit, and I just explored the option from there, and it sort of came together quickly, and it was a really good fit for me.
That's awesome. How long have you been volunteering here?
A year and a half.
Okay, all right. I bet a lot has happened over that time period for you.
It really has. I just feel like what it's brought to my life, what I've given to other people, it's just blessed me an awful lot. It really has.
I'm really curious because you were saying there was a list of different volunteer opportunities. What did you hone in on and describe to me sort of what you do as a volunteer here for Hospice of the Chesapeake?
Well, what I do is I work with patients and their families. What did not draw me is I didn't want anything to do with nursing or any of that because it's just not my forte. I'm really a buy a whole chicken, cook a whole chicken kind of girl. So I do different things with patients and their families, and it is never typical for, there's no typical set day.
Okay.
I have done things as different as listening to music with patients, because I did have a patient that did not speak the language.
Okay.
So much that we did was done outside of any conversation. She really enjoyed classical music, and sometimes we would be sitting on the couch just listening. She would just lay her head on my shoulder and just close her eyes and go off to sleep. Another day, she was a gifted artist, and she decided one day that she was going to teach me how to make some 4D paper creations. She was really good at it. It was right up there with the worst Pinterest fail you could ever imagine. I was just not in the line when they were giving out artistic abilities. I really was not. It was funny, and we actually had a good laugh, and I will never forget that day. It was just so much fun. I had one patient, she really liked to watch game shows. She did not do much talking, but we watched a lot of game shows, and she had a lot of fun with that. She enjoyed aromatouch therapy, which is using essential oils, just light hand massage. It's very relaxing.
Okay.
And then I would polish her nails, and she didn't have to do anything in the house because she wasn't doing much at that point, so her nails stayed nice for a really long time, and she really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
She didn't say much, but you could just tell that she really enjoyed it.
Right.
I have done dishes.
Okay.
I have done laundry. I have cleaned kitchens. I have driven children to school, and I've picked them up. Sometimes I will spend an hour with a family member after I'm finished with a patient, just because my heart is not just for the patient.
Right.
It is also for the family. And sometimes they want to talk about things or get things off of their chest.
Yeah.
So there is really no typical day, honestly. It is just so differently, but it's so different for each patient and family. But basically, I feel like my job is just to come in and love patients exactly where they are, to support the family as well as the patient, just to love them on this journey at the very end of their life, because they have such great need.
Right.
And none of them are ever alike. So
I can imagine that it would be, a different experience, and there is no typical day. I'm wondering, when you're talking about interacting with the families, like that's gotta be really intense too. I mean, you're talking about sharing this, and I know several people have referred to it as a sacred time. It is definitely a meaningful time in a person's you share with me a little bit about your role when you're supporting the families? Like, what does that look like? You know, you talked a little bit like actually doing tasks. You're taking kids to school, which is huge. You're having conversations with family members.
I do. There are times when patients and family members want to talk to somebody outside of their family just because there are issues that they want to get off of their heart, but they're uncomfortable with a family member because it might be very personal. So I have done that. I have written letters that patients want to leave behind for family members after they pass. That's really hard. It's hard not to have a tear when that happens.
I was gonna say that's got to be emotionally.
It is. It is emotional, but it's part of my job, and my job is to help the patient, support the family. Sometimes just talking about these things, they have questions, and I can't always answer the questions, but I can reassure them and let them know that the team, because there is a team aspect with hospice, that there is somebody on that team that is there to meet that need, whether it's the chaplain, the social worker, the nurse's aide, the nurse, patient care volunteer, which is me,
Right.
The doctor. So if I can't answer a question, I will call the social worker and say, hey, this is what I'm hearing, you know, can you help this patient out? But sometimes it's really just talking and sharing your heart. Sometimes I have just hugged a patient or a family member and we just kind of have tears, and it's very
And
cleansing.
you're just there for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So if you're just joining in, I'm Tammy Turner. I'm the Community Education Manager here at Hospice of the Chesapeake, and it is National Volunteer Appreciation Week, and we are honored to have Sherry Tucker here with us, who's one of our volunteers, and just talking about her experience as a patient care volunteer and sort of what some of the aspects are in that role. If you have some thoughts or questions or comments, feel free to post them while we're talking. You can also feel free to share this video. We always like to share information about Hospice of the Chesapeake and our volunteer services that we have here. So I'm just sort of blown away by the magnitude and the power that you're offering as a volunteer. I mean, that is, you are part of a really, you know, you talk about the team, you're really an integral part of that team and providing such a valuable service. That's gotta be, that really has to like.
It is such an honor.
Yeah.
I don't think that there are words to explain what an honor it is. To work with these people, you learn how to live a better life because you get a really inside look at how people live when they know that they are dying. And I have learned something from every single patient that I've ever worked with.
Is there a particular moment or a memory that you feel comfortable sharing? And I know we've talked before and we are very aware of HIPAA violations and want to keep privacy intact, but you know, I know it would be great if you could share a story that maybe really made an impression on you.
There is one thing that I honestly will never forget it. I did have a patient that was from another country, so their culture was different. She did not speak my language. We used a language, I guess a foreign language app, which was helpful but not always ideal.
Right.
But I became very close to her and the family, and when she passed away, it was very early in the morning, her caregiver called and asked if I would come and help her dress her mother to be prepared for cremation because the mother had chosen a dress previous to this because it is their culture. I was so honored. That was an incredibly sacred moment to be asked to participate in that, to support the family during that really raw time of grief and to help honor that patient.
Right.
There are literally no words, and I will never forget that as long as I live.
Well, I think the fact that you were invited to do that, I mean, just speaks volumes right there. Like that is a very, you know, important, meaningful moment,
Sure
and that
was.
you were asked to be a part of that.
I was incredibly honored.
Yeah.
I will never forget it.
Yeah. So, you know, you've talked a little bit about some of your different experiences as a volunteer in helping patients and helping the families. Has there been anything that sort of surprised you or things that you didn't expect in your experience volunteering?
I would say definitely yes. The first thing, which I kind of touched on earlier, was that it actually helps me to live better because I'm keeping the end in mind, and I'm able to say and do things now that I might not have done.
Interesting.
Because I don't want to get to the end of my life and not be able to say those things.
Right.
The second thing is how much I gain from doing it, and I often say I feel like I get more out of it than the patients do actually. And the third thing is that it is not sad. These patients are not giving up. They are not saying yes to dying. They're saying yes to living, because having their pain and their symptoms managed gives them the ability to say and do everything with peace and comfort and dignity, so that at the end of their life they are ready to end that journey.
Yeah, gosh, that's gotta be, I just feel the magnitude. I mean, I've said this a minute ago, but it's really powerful. I mean, it's gotta be such an incredible experience, and then what you're taking away, the power of that too, like being there for them, but then what you're gaining from it sounds like just something that you weren't really anticipating.
I guess I really wasn't, but you know, if you think about it, people prepare in all kinds of ways for the birth of a child,
Yeah,
but they don't prepare for death.
it's true.
So when you know you're dying, you can prepare for it, and you're better able to do that if you're not hurting, and if any symptoms that you have are being managed the very best that they can be. So yes, it is. It's quite an honor. It really is.
That's awesome. So for someone that might be watching and maybe considering being a volunteer, and it's just sort of like, okay, this sounds pretty cool, like sounds like something that I might be able to
cool.
I might be able to connect with. What would you say to them, or would you advise them, or any points that you would have for them?
I would say if you have ever thought of volunteering for hospice, I would absolutely encourage you to explore that opportunity, because it just gives you it fulfills you in a way that you can't describe. I mean, it's an honor to walk beside these people. I love what I do. It's just something that when I started doing it initially, I couldn't believe that I had not been doing it for my whole life. So if you ever thought about it, please call Hospice of the Chesapeake, explore the opportunity. I promise you, you won't regret it.
So for anybody that might be interested in looking at our volunteer opportunities, you can absolutely call us, or you can go on our website, which is hospicechesapeake.org, and visit us there. There's a whole drop-down menu option. So let's talk about some other ways, because you talked about when you first started, there was the whole list of different volunteer opportunities,
Yes.
and you're doing the patient care. Maybe I don't know if you're familiar with them. I know there are some other options for volunteers. If you want to share them, that's great. I can jump in.
Sure. One thing that I really love is it's called an honor salute, and we really honor our veterans. Honestly, Hospice of the Chesapeake they are so honoring to veterans. So basically, there's a military veteran, and then there's a hospice volunteer, and they have a little. It's a small celebration. They present them with a plaque, with a pin. There's a blanket. It's so reverent and honoring. They get the slow salute, thanking them for their service from the military volunteer. It is so touching. I don't think I have ever attended a single one where I have not shed a tear, because even if the patient's not aware, a lot of times you will see a little tear leaking out of their eye, because their military career meant something to them, and the fact that they are being honored at that point in their life, it is incredibly meaningful, and the family is always very grateful for it.
That's a great option for someone who might have been in the service and wants to look at giving back. We are always trying to connect our veterans with that program, and just seeing other, patients who are in hospice that have been in the military. It's such a strong connection.
It is. Another area is, like I mentioned before, the aromatherapy touch, and then there's also something called comfort touch. I think comfort touch is a little more extensive than aromatherapy touch, but basically it is just a light, relaxing massage with essential oils that sort of can work in conjunction with whatever the patient might need, whether it's relaxation or anxiety or just giving their spirits a little bit of a lift. they find it very comforting. There's vigil volunteer. That is somebody who will sit at the bedside of a patient at the very end of their journey. It's a support for the patient as well as for the family. It allows the family to feel comfortable that their loved one is not going to die by themselves if they have to, step out.
I also, I know that some people might not feel comfortable being that it resonated for you, but I'm sure there are some people that might just feel too intense, but they still want to participate as a volunteer. And we always have needs in our office. There's administrative work, there's events that we do as a nonprofit organization, so there's a lot of options, and I just encourage anybody that's thinking about it to definitely go on the website and check out the volunteer opportunities and the menu that's there. I know we're just about out of time, and I'm so grateful again for you being here and sharing your experience. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate you all tuning in, and be sure to, as I said earlier, like, share this video, and thanks again for tuning in.